Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Airspeed Reads Naruto video. This one is going to be for volume 27 of the manga, and it is titled Departure. It's also the last in this 3-in-1 volume, and the last in Naruto Part 1. So after this, we'll be going into just single volumes, because that's the way I have the rest of the series, so that should make it actually easier for me, and that I don't have to carry this big book, and then 2/3 of it aren't being used for that video. So it's going to be pretty fun to discuss the actual volume covers each time from here on out. But yeah, last volume of Naruto Part 1, we get 9 more chapters. Let me just get the page here. Yeah, 9 more chapters, 236 to 244. We get A Broken Promise, Fool, Departure, and then the last 6 chapters are basically a little arc to themselves called Kakashi Chronicles, Boy's Life on the Battlefield. We get Chronicle 1, The Mission Begins, Chronicle 2, Teamwork, Chronicle 3, A True Hero, Chronicle 4, The Crybaby Ninja, Chronicle 5, A Gift, and Chronicle 6, Sharingan Hero. So overall, another really good volume. I love how the Naruto Part 1 stuff, not the Kakashi stuff, comes to an end. Just how they really effectively used the promise between that Naruto made to Sakura as a way to kind of develop both Naruto and Sakura in this volume. And then you have a little bit more of Shikamaru, a little bit more Tsunade, setting up more of what the other characters are doing, and just really coming to an end that everyone realizes that they've got work to do. We've basically got this kind of 3-year kind of nothing much about to happen, just 3 years of kind of calmness, and then we're back in heavily into things. So really cool the way that sets everyone up to just try to better themselves, and everyone's preparing for this. And we even get the return of Hinata here, who we haven't seen for a while, and she also is aware that she needs to work hard while everyone's away. So that's good. And then the Kakashi Chronicles stuff is just an excellent backstory on Kakashi, introducing us to Obito, Rin, his teammates, and also us properly getting to know the character of Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage. So at this point in time, I don't think he is the 4th Hokage, but still, he's still known as the Yellow Flash of the Leaf at this point in time. But let's get into the specifics here. So, straight away, just where we start off, it's this whole idea of the promise kind of coming back up. But we also straight away set up that Shikamaru has this idea that, look, in the future, I think all 3-man teams going forward should have a medical ninja on board. Because he sort of realizes that was what went wrong with the team he created going out, in that whenever any of them got injured, they just were kind of stuck there, and they kind of needed a medical person to kind of help that along the way. And just Tsunade says that, I agree, I proposed this many years ago, but it's hard to train medical ninjas, and it requires completely different skills to being a fighter. And then there's another thing a lot of people don't have that you really need, and it's this special something that we don't get really touched on until Sakura comes and asks Lady Tsunade to train her later on. But just a cool setup. And then we immediately cut over to Sakura, who is kind of very upset because she hasn't been made aware yet that everyone has returned. And Ino then comes up and informs her, and she immediately goes to the hospital. And we cut over to Naruto, who is basically still upset that he's failed on his mission, and in his mind, more so than failing himself and not getting his friend back, he is more upset that he couldn't fulfill his promise to Sakura at this point in time. That he's kind of, hasn't fulfilled the promise immediately, but when she arrives in, he's immediately like, Sasuke is not here, but I will fulfill my promise. I that was a promise of a lifetime. I absolutely will make that happen. There's nothing else. And it's really interesting the way they approach this, and that Sakura initially takes it really hard that Sasuke hasn't returned, but she's aware that she put a lot of pressure on Naruto with that promise, and tries her best not to act upset that the mission has ended in failure for his sake. She obviously doesn't blame him at all, but she really doesn't want to come across that like she's disappointed and really further upset Naruto. And it's just interesting that he immediately kind of comes back, saying like, I never go back on my word. That's my shinobi way. And Shikamaru sees this, Tsunade sees this, and Sakura sees this, and it gets them back on track that like, okay, Naruto has failed, but he's still confident that he can still do more. He's not going to give up. He's not going to, be depressed about this for a long time. He's just going to get back up and get straight back to it. And it kind of brings smiles back to everyone. And in Sakura, it kind of, lights her desire to do something herself. And that we get this great moment where she just says to herself in her own mind, I just cried and reached out and clung to you. All I did was cry for help. I did nothing. And then she says to him, Naruto, I'm sorry, you'll need to wait for a while, but next time I'm coming with you. And it's just like she is now determined to make herself stronger so she can support Naruto and basically not have to completely rely on him alone to do everything. She will be there to, help as well. That the promise, she can help fulfill that too. So it's a really big thing. And we cut away a little bit, and she asks Tsunade, please make me your apprentice. And this is what we get. It's basically that what's needed for a medical ninja is, the hunger, basically. That the desire to really, truly want to be in that role as a kind of healer on your team. So Tsunade agrees to it, but just says it's going to be very, very difficult. And we cut back a little bit later to see that Sakura's making good progress, but for now, that's kind of all we get with it. We get a page and a bit setting up Kakashi and Obito, basically setting up the remaining 6 chapters of the volume. In that we see Kakashi once again come back to Obito's grave and talk about how I'm Jonin now, I teach and tutor. But things haven't really changed. I have so many regrets. Even with this eye, I still don't know what the future holds. I wonder what you'd say to me now if you could. Then he says, Obito. So we've had the name Obito mentioned before at this grave as well. So just that it's still a thing that Kakashi constantly goes back to. But then Jiraiya arrives at the window and basically proposes to Naruto. We've got 3 years. I know I've learned about the way Orochimaru's technique works. Once he transfers into a new body, he can't do it again for another 3 years because the doing whatever he does to his soul to transfer it in between bodies, it's such a crazy thing to do. It just takes 3 years to be able to do it again. And so he basically says, within 3 years I'll make you a fully fledged shinobi, and that's it, set in place. But Naruto obviously argues back that I need to go now to get Sasuke back immediately. And this is where Jiraiya basically just says, no, you have to leave Sasuke. He chose to go with Orochimaru willingly. And basically just says, you can't go down this path of being a fool. And they have this argument back and forth, Naruto just saying, he's my friend, Jiraiya arguing, but look, your friend hurt you. You're in hospital now because of him. And just saying that, look, I won't train you. I will get people to purposefully keep you in the village, unless you decide to abandon Sasuke and just leave him out there. And Jiraiya just says that I know how you feel. I had a similar thing with Orochimaru, and we get the little flashback moment of basically Orochimaru leaving the village and Jiraiya being there to confront him, and he basically lets Orochimaru go. He doesn't fight for him, and you get the idea that he's more or less given up on the idea of getting Orochimaru back on his side, and it is kind of countering this idea of what Naruto feels, in that he is going to stick to his guns and try and get Sasuke back regardless. And I like the next one is just a really big moment, huge moment as a way to kind of end off part 1. And he says that, if you want to live as a shinobi, you must be smarter. This world, it's no place for a fool. That's the reality. And Naruto just says, I understand. And the big line, if being smart means what you say, I'll remain a fool my entire life. Even if I've got to do it alone, I'm going to spin some incredible jutsu and I'm going to rescue Sasuke no matter what. And I'm going to smack down the Akatsuki. And this is kind of what inspires Jiraiya to be like, look, okay, if you try and do this on your own, you'll fail, but I will train you. You are the type of person, that I think could make this happen, so I will train you to help you do this. And it's just this moment where Jiraiya really realizes that he kind of wishes that back then with Orochimaru he had perhaps pursued him a bit more and attempted to convince him otherwise, and that maybe he gave up too soon, and that he sees kind of something more in Naruto and in how much he won't let Sasuke go and just leave it like that. So big moment as basically they start their apprenticeship. They're going to leave for basically 3 years, and we just quickly catch up with we have a little bit with Sasuke. We just have him in Orochimaru's hideout with Kabuto, and basically just Kabuto is kind of intimidated by Sasuke as he is now, and Orochimaru is set to train Sasuke to get this power that he wants. So really big moment. Then we get the training moment with Sakura, where she in 3 months has managed to progress to the point where she can actually heal a fish enough to kind of bring it back to life effectively. And she says that this girl, she may be of a talent unseen since Shizune. So we obviously know Shizune is kind of Orochimaru, what am I saying there, is Tsunade's kind of apprentice, she's related to Dawn and stuff like that, so she's very talented as well, but Sakura is kind of on that level, so that's a kind of big one to get, that this is the speciality that Sakura's been missing out on for basically the entirety of part 1, that she didn't have this, but it ultimately fits really well, because what little we know about medical ninjutsu, it's the kind of the key positives that Sakura have kind of perfectly apply to medical ninjutsu. She's got perfect control over her chakra. She is smart, intelligent enough to learn jutsu effectively. She just maybe doesn't have the power level to do some of the crazy stuff that Naruto and Sasuke do. So medical ninjutsu, which requires you to be very calm, cool, and collected, wouldn't be ideal for Naruto or Sasuke, but it works perfectly for Sakura. So it's really cool the way they set that up. They also then cut around to some of the other characters who were on this mission. We see Kiba catching Shino up on what happened, and Shino's just basically asking every single question imaginable about this trip. He was out of the village and he couldn't be chosen for the mission, and he's a bit upset that he wasn't on the mission. We see that the Hyuga clan is getting on very well. Hiyashi is training with Neji, which is a big thing, and Hinata, we see her for the first time in a while, brings them out some tea, and they're all getting along very well. Hiyashi feels, I suppose, more positive about Hinata now, and the relationship between Neji and the main branch family seems better. So, and I think the main thing here is that Neji and Hinata seem reasonably close, in that Neji says, Naruto's leaving the village for training, aren't you going to see him off? And then Kiba comes in and says, yeah, she already visited him, and when she saw him all injured, she fainted completely and hasn't gone back since because she's so embarrassed. So there's a cute little moment there. I really like it. Choji's probably had the biggest development here, in that he's eating after being in hospital. He lost a lot of weight. He's gained it back almost immediately, and basically he's kind of saying once we're done eating, let's start training Master Asuma. So big moment there, that he's actually wanting to train now to, I suppose, more effectively protect his friends and stuff like that. Lee is obviously getting back into shape as well. He has basically out-trained Guy. Guy is on the ground, and Tenten is kind of really impressed with Lee, how quickly he's bounced back. And I suppose the little scene we get here is, it's probably one of the only hints from the show about a Lee Tenten potential relationship type thing, in that they very much seem to do this, and that she seems very she seems to admire very much some of the qualities of Lee, but is obviously frustrated by him a lot of the time as well. So it's just an interesting one. Then the last thing we get is basically just Shikamaru. He basically thanks the Sand Shinobi for coming to help them, and we get a little thing setting up the Tamari Shikamaru relationship. That there's more to it than I think we think. She just says to him, "If anything comes up, just ding us. We'll help you out. Got it, crybaby?" And he says, "Just one word too far." That's what makes girls so weird. So he clearly likes her. So big moment. And then Tsunade is basically just looking at the pictures of the previous four Hokage and has properly accepted her role. She realizes, I suppose, what inspired the previous Hokage so much to continue. It's the people of the village. Then very last thing as we end basically part one in terms of what Naruto has been up to. He has one last visit to Ichiraku Ramen with Iruka, and then Jiraiya comes in to take him off, and Iruka is just very proud of Naruto that he's going off to really prove himself and properly become a ninja. And Naruto leaves. Hinata's behind a little pillar nearby, just watching him and saying I need to work hard myself. And we also get this pretty interesting scene of just, I suppose, the full Akatsuki meeting for the first time, and our first look at Pain and I suppose general silhouettes of what the rest of the characters look like. That they're aware that Sasuke has gone to Orochimaru, and this is something that they are kind of thinking of potentially dealing with, that it could become a threat at some point. And Itachi, just his response to this is kind of really just ... So he's kind of thinking about it, that, oh, so this is what the way Sasuke has chosen to try and gain power. So very interesting way of ending the series there, as just training. And I suppose it's one of those interesting ones in that I'm sure at the time when this first came out, there was speculation perhaps about would there be a time skip, would we see this training, but I suppose it would have been announced in the build-up to these chapters coming out that there was going to be a time skip at some point, so it probably wasn't too much of a surprise that this was happening. But definitely interesting that they actually have a kind of buffer story in between part 1 and 2 in the Kakashi Chronicles, which is I think similarly placed in the anime as well, but maybe I'm misremembering when exactly that takes place. But yeah, this flashback is just so well done for me. We obviously get Kakashi just having become a Jonin, leading his first mission here, as basically he leads Rin and Obito, and then their master Minato, the soon-to-be, I suppose at this point in time, fourth Hokage, is going to basically fight on the front lines on his own to distract them as they do a sabotage mission. And the main thing here is setting up Kakashi and Obito's relationship. They are rivals, friends, but their friendship isn't, I suppose, fully developed. It's similar to Naruto and Sasuke in many ways, in that it's a rivalry, but it seems more like Kakashi's very elite and doesn't overly treat Obito as a friend, but there's a closeness between them that they do understand each other, and some of the moments here really highlight that, and that Obito is set up to basically be the kind of the lesser Uchiha at this point in time, that he hasn't awakened his Sharingan yet. He's seen as kind of weak-willed a little bit compared to most of the really strong shinobi, in that he has strong words, he's very quick with his mouth, but can't often back it up. He's a bit you wouldn't quite say a coward, but he, like Naruto on the first mission when they encountered enemies, he froze up a little bit in battle. Whereas Kakashi at this point in time is super skilled. He's a Jonin, of course, at such a young age, but he's obsessed with following the rules. And this is a really interesting character development for him, because we know, based on what he says previously, that the bell test for him early on in Naruto was about, do you stick to the rules or do you prioritize your friends over them? And here, to counter what happened to his father, and I like the explanation for this, in that they explain that his father was put in this really bad situation where he had to decide between completing the mission or protecting his comrades, and he chose his comrades and was basically vilified in the village for it, and committed suicide after it because he was so defamed. And because of that, Kakashi is obsessed with sticking to the rules so that nothing like that ever happens again, because he sees that as like this wrong thing. Breaking the rules, putting people above the mission, is the wrong thing to do because of what happened to his father, and it's tragic in its own way, in that like they come back to it later on, of course, but it's just a kind of nice but easy explanation of like why he is this way, and just for Obito to better understand why Kakashi is so obsessed with the rules. It works really well. And from there, what happens is just like the team begins to come together a bit. Rin very much in the kind of Sakura position, and it's a cool way because you've just started Sakura's medical training, but we have here basically almost like this kind of carbon copy of that group in a slightly different way, in that you have Kakashi is Sasuke, Obito is Naruto, and Rin is Sakura, and you sort of see like this is what Team 7 could be like if they're fully developed. Basically, you have someone who's super elite like Sasuke, Kakashi. You have the healer who's supporting the other two, Sakura, Rin, and then you have the kind of initially, kind of not very talented one, but has the potential to be super strong, who's fulfilling that potential now in Obito and Naruto. So I really like the kind of symbolism of like a lot of these teams being similar, not identical, but similar, and them really showcasing some of this. But anyway, what happens here is basically Kakashi wants to test his new jutsu, the Chidori, so we get the kind of explanation for where this comes from. And obviously, at this point in time, he doesn't have the Sharingan. That's very notable. And so when he tries to use it, Minato points out that it's a very strong jutsu, but you can't effectively utilize this technique because it makes you move so fast that you can't actually anticipate and dodge a counterattack if it hits. So it's setting up this idea that the technique requires the Sharingan to work, because that allows you to react effectively to a counterattack. And it's a really cool way of this story setting up how Kakashi gets the Sharingan, because what happens is that on the course of their mission, Rin is captured, and Kakashi is put in the exact same situation as his father was, but he makes a decision initially to just fulfill the mission. Rin, she's here. She knew what would have happened. She's here on this mission. She knows that there's dangers, and she's got captured. We can maybe come back for her later, but we have to fulfill the mission first. That's the rules. We have to stick to it. And it's at this point that we get the big moment from, Obito, where he says the line that ultimately we put on Kakashi as being the one who kind of initially says it, but it's actually Obito who has the origins of this. And he says, sure, in a ninja's world, those who violate the rules and fail to follow orders are lower than garbage. However, those who do not care for and support their fellows are even lower than that. And this really hits home and basically gets Kakashi to come back and help Rin. Now, I still have some issues with the translation here. I talked about this when I did the translation of the initial Kakashi thing. I think the anime hits this, the English dub of the anime hits this the best in terms of what the translation is. This one is just a little wordy in the sense of like, those who violate the rules and fail to follow orders are lower than garbage. Those who do not care for and support their fellows. It's just a little bit like this. The "and" bit is just, it adds a little bit too much in terms of it being this really snappy, punchy line, like a lot of these big ones should be. Whereas I prefer the anime one from Kakashi, where it's like, in the ninja world, those who break the rules are scum, but those who abandon their friends are worse than scum. Like, there's no this and this and this and this are this and so on. So it's just a matter of flow, I think, in terms of the quality of the line and the translation. But nothing too difficult, nothing too bad. So Obito goes off on his own, nearly gets himself killed. Kakashi comes back, helps him, but basically loses an eye in the process, fighting these pretty high-level ninja that they're facing here. And basically, Obito, to protect Kakashi, awakens his Sharingan and basically manages to more or less defeat one of them, and they kind of get to where Rin is. They more or less save her, but as they're kind of, just about to escape, one of the other ninjas uses this kind of crazy earth style jutsu that basically collapses the kind of cave system they're in. Kakashi with the blind spot is about to be crushed by a boulder. Obito pushes him out of the way, but gets crushed himself. And it's this really, really tragic moment of just this devastating kind of situation that they're in, where just Obito, like half of him is completely crushed under this enormous boulder, and the lines that he says about like I can't feel anything on my right side. It's just super tragic that the team has just started to come together and work really well and kind of understand each other, and now they're kind of being torn apart by this. And before this, they'd obviously set up this idea that to celebrate Kakashi becoming a Jonin, they all were to buy him a gift. Rin got him a medical kit. Minato gave him one of his special kunai. But Obito didn't give him anything. But now, at this point in time, he basically admits his true feelings to Kakashi, that I think you're an amazing Jonin, no matter what anyone else says. The only gift I can give you is my Sharingan, the only one I have left, the left one, and he basically gets Rin to do it. So, hugely tragic moment, because for Rin, who obviously cares about these two, to have to, like, in the middle of this crazy situation, like, transplant her dying friend's eye into her other friend. It's this crazy moment, but she does it. She completes the surgery. They manage to get out. Kakashi uses the Sharingan and basically does enough to kind of fend off the enemies that they're surrounded by until Minato arrives and saves them. But Obito has died, basically, is the implication, at least. And we just end with this really great moment of just this kind of narration of just the third great ninja war, with the sacrifices of many nameless shinobi. The protracted war finally came to a close. In its wake, it also left legends, the stories of great heroes to be told and retold for generations to come. The Battle of Kanabi Bridge. That day, two heroes were born in Konohagure, each one with his own Sharingan. One found his name engraved on the memorial stone. The other came to be known as Kakashi of the Sharingan. In time, the tales of his bravery spanned all borders and beyond. Just a great way to just further establish Kakashi as a character, and a story that they will expand upon into the future to set up one of the bigger villains in the series, and just an overall excellent backstory for a main character, and then we better understand him. This Obito character has been mentioned once or twice as like Kakashi's best friend, basically. We now understand that. We now have better context to the line Kakashi said a couple of volumes ago when he said to Sasuke when he tied him to the tree and says, you can't kill the people close to me, they're already dead. And in many ways it's because of this war. In this war he lost, Obito, many other shinobis lost their lives, and obviously later on we'll find out about like what happened to Rin. Like Rin isn't really mentioned, and she's not around. So what happened to her? So really big volume there. So overall, excellent end to Naruto Part 1, setting up stuff for basically all of the characters. Sasuke is with Orochimaru and is to be trained and gain more power, but in his own way. Like, how is he going to get the Mangekyo Sharingan now? Like, that's the kind of mystery, but how much will the curse mark side of his powers be, expanded upon? Naruto going to fully train with Jiraiya and explore the world, like, what's he going to come back like after a time skip? And then I think most importantly, actually, of all, Sakura finally finding her speciality and knowing kind of what she wants to do. Be a medical ninja and support, basically, Naruto here in this way. So I really like what they did with all three of the kind of main characters, and then you set up most of the rookies to also want to develop. Shino to be chosen for one of these missions, Hinata to work just as hard as Naruto, and all of the other characters, just something little for them to do. Shikamaru to become a better leader, and so on. So just really good setup that, like, when we return in the next volume, all of these characters are going to be the same but different in some ways, and older, and what's that going to be like. So really excited to see how the manga approaches doing that. So I'm really, really excited. So yeah, with that, we end the 3-in-1 volumes and we go on to individual volumes. So, the way I have the individual volumes, I think I might have showed this in the video where I announced I was doing this series, or else the very first volume review. But I have the rest of the series in these box sets. So this is 28 to 48, and so we have lots of volumes right here. So we are going on to 28 next, which is this one. So really cool, excited to finally do some individual volumes. But yeah, we'll do that next time out. But actually, I should say, the next video in this series is actually going to be a kind of in-review Naruto Part 1, where I'll do a kind of overview of the first 27 volumes, like how I felt about how the art progressed, the story of Part 1 overall, what were the highlights, were there any lowlights and stuff like that. And then I'll do a similar thing as we get to the other stages of the series. So at the next week you'll probably see 2 Naruto videos. One covering my thoughts on Part 1 overall, the first 27 volumes, and then the Volume 28 review. And as well as in addition to, of course, the Naruto anime review on Thursday. So yeah, that's been the video for today. In the comments let me know what your thoughts were. Other than that, thanks for watching this video, and bye.